and welcome back to Serenity with Lana. I am Lana, and today we're going to be talking about something that has been on my mind for quite a while, but I just didn't really know how to talk about it. But I was sitting here getting ready, listening to the chaos downstairs, and outside my door, my dog is barking, trying to get in. And really, this is something that I think a lot of women in general deal with. And I'm not really sure about women who are postpartum and have a chronic or terminal illness, because not too many people I know have had that experience. But this is something that is close to my heart because I've gone through it. And I think that maybe if there's a little bit more honesty and transparency around this issue, then women won't be in the same position I was in, and hopefully they'll find this video and we'll be able to get through the rest of what we need to get through. Getting ready with me video, and yeah, so let's get into it. My partner ended up, oh dear, is that gonna be okay? So my partner ended up washing my brushes while I was sleeping this morning. I don't sleep very well, so when I do get to have a nice sleep, he just lets me roll with it and gets up with the baby and allows me to sleep in, which I am absolutely so incredibly blessed that I have a person in my life who really has picked up the responsibility, especially because I've been so sick. And now that I'm getting a little bit better, my dedication is to working and bringing in money essentially to our family. So it looks on camera, but I have mirrors everywhere, and that is why I'm going back and forth. This blush palette is really Wondrous Dust to Dawn blush and highlighter palette. I don't usually use the blushes at all, but yeah, so I'm just using that middle one today. Did I say that I don't usually use the blushes? I use the blushes. I don't usually use the highlight because I'm not a highlighter girl, but I'm trying to get a little bit more into that as well. So if you have any recommendations for highlighters that I should try, as one, I remember I have one in my collection that is years old, and I don't know when they go bad, but one of my girlfriends, or we haven't just talked in a while, but she used to get the Ipsy years ago before I had started getting the Ipsy bags, and she was like, do you know what highlighter is used for? Would you use it? And I was starting to kind of get into it then, so I ended up actually getting it from her, and it was not my favorite thing in the world. So I used it a few times, and then yeah, it was an Ofra brown clutter. That is what I'll be decluttering because it is like 4 years old at this point in time. So we're talking really about the phenomenon of chronic illness and terminal illness in the healthcare system after having a child, and the gaslighting and the type of anxiety that comes with that situation, because it's a whole different realm when you thought you were healthy, you were going to have a healthy baby, and then now you're in the hospital and things are going wrong, but people are basically telling you, one, that anxiety, or that just because you're postpartum and it has nothing to do with anything other than that, but you know, and you had known for quite a long time that something was definitely very wrong. Obviously, like, these challenges are intensified by the fact that you're a new mother. Your relationship has completely changed with your partner because now you have this new person in your lives, and it's exciting, but it's also incredibly scary when the patient's dual role becomes being between an expectant or just recently postpartum mother. It adds just like this other layer of complexity, and I don't think that women get the pregnancy care in Canada that they deserve or they need. to be honest, in the first place. So you add this on top of it and it just gets even more freaking wild. That's the only way I can really describe it. And I've really tried to focus on lately a way that the patient's voice can be heard in a way that medical professionals understand, and in a tone or in with an attitude that medical professionals won't go, oh, I'm being abused and whatever else, right? And it's such a delicate balance, and I'm not sure that I've even come close to finding what that balance it is, or how others are going to be able to utilize it the way that I have, because I'm still just navigating it, and I've had some really big hiccups along the way. Start prioritizing like the patient's voice over anything, and come to a place of person-centered care within healthcare again. I come from a field, a social work field, and developmental services, where that's what we used. I always advocated for a person-centered thinking model or a person-centered planning model, and that's just like that's become my norm. So when I look at the healthcare system and I realize how far away from that norm they are, I don't really understand it. And like one of the only things that I can relate this to, and people say, oh, healthcare's changed so much. Oh, that's really pretty. I am in love with the Charlotte Tilbury, flawless, is it the flawless feel something? Anyway, I'm in love with this little compact. I'm going to have to get a bigger one, but it's just, it blends everything so freaking seamlessly that I don't know why I never got it in the first place. Anyway, what was I saying? Person-centered planning. We say, oh, healthcare's changed so much, doctors have changed so much, but I think this has always been an issue, and I'm not sure that we ever did have a person-centric care plan or system. And I'm not sure where that comes from, because I haven't studied too in depth about it at this point in time. But my grandmother had cancer 33 years ago, and she was a hospital administrator in my hometown. She started that hospital from the ground up and ran it, but she developed cancer and decided that she wasn't going to go through any treatment. She was just going to basically go home and pass away. And that's what she did. But it says something when somebody has been around medical professionals and had dinner with them, trusted their children with them, or had their children babysit others. Like my mother and grandfather were godmother and godfather to one of the doctor's children, right? It seems so bizarre to me that she'd trust them on that level. But when it came to her care and keeping her alive and in the state that she would want to live, or have the quality of life still present, she went, no, just send me home. I'll do this myself. And I'm not entirely sure what palliative care looked like at that time. I'd have to ask my mom about it. My mom's a nurse, and it's just, yeah, she chose to go home and die. And a lot of people choose that because they don't trust that, one, medical professionals will adequately diagnose them or treat them or give them what they need to survive, or live a life where they're free of pain and have the quality of life they need. Or they don't want, people think that there's this element of not wanting to be a burden. And yes, of course, like coming from my experience, yeah, we do have that element, but there's also a really real element of, will people take care of me the way that I would like, or the way that we've talked about? And having that trust is huge, because yeah, we love our families, and yeah, we want to think that they would be there, but ultimately they have their own stuff going on. They need to work, they need to live, and we don't become a burden, but we become a shell of ourselves, and that's scary. Like some people want that control, and I think that they should have it if that's what they want, because the chances of abuse go up significantly once you become bedbound or disabled enough that you're not able to actually do most daily tasks for your. Just natural that we would want to have a little bit more say and be able to go out before that becomes a possibility. Water. All right. I experienced an incredible amount of medical gaslighting, and it happens when patients' symptoms and concerns are basically swept under the rug and are dismissed for no just cause. They're just not listened to. And of course, with minorities and women especially, this happens a lot, especially it has to do with pain. During this time, it made me feel incredibly isolated and depressed, and made me feel like nobody was listening and that I didn't matter already. So people were telling me, like, you have to fight, you have to do this, and I'm like, why? This is people's jobs, right? Like, I shouldn't have to tell them how to do their job, and I shouldn't have to advocate for myself because of some trauma or some opinion that they have. That this should be a professional code or a professional standard, and it was mind-blowing to me that it wasn't, and that we don't hold people accountable in the medical fields to the extent that they should be, especially when we're dealing with a life-threatening condition such as mine. And finances can really stop people from seeking care, and it pretty much almost did for, like, that was my experience too, is I no longer wanted to go to the doctor. And even now, like, if I am that sick that I know that there's nothing that they could do for me at the hospital, I'm not going. Are you kidding? Be at home and be comfortable, to be honest with you. I don't want any part of sitting in a hospital having people poke and prod me and not listen to me, because they're the ones with the brains apparently, and they prove every single time that I'm there that maybe they should go back to school or get an IQ test. But yeah, it's just like, that's the scary part, is that it really does interfere with people's ability to want to seek care. And then people wonder why, like, there's so much there, and people are really upset when they have to actually deal with a medical professional. All in all, I had to learn how to advocate, and I had to get over that anger and that fear, and a lot of it because if I wanted to be alive for my baby, that was just part of it. Like, there was no way around it. So what I'm really trying to do with this channel is recognizing the fact that we all have very unique needs and very unique situations, and I want people to be able to look at their situation from an honest perspective, an honest lens, and look at what they're going through and really be able to track their symptoms and be able to present that information in a way that medical professionals seem to accept, right? And it sucks that we can't be individuals. We have to be like this robotic version of ourselves. But if that's what we need to do, and that's how we can get the care that we really need ultimately, then let's start there and work up and work out, right? To help the shift happen in a manner that will be most successful. I've heard a few different, like, versions and opinions on what will really benefit and what will make the shift, and it just seems like there's a lot of work involved, and it's going to take kind of have this healthcare system that makes patients feel safe and heard and liberated, and also makes for a better workplace for nurses and doctors and all the lovely people that work inside our hospitals or our doctors' offices. Towards achieving person-centered care is going to require a systemic change on so many different levels, and educating healthcare professionals about what we want, but then also saying that this isn't the collective, right? Like, I'm tired of other patients or other disabled, chronically ill people speaking for me, because at the end of the day, I do have differing opinions from these people, and that's always going to happen. So you're going to have to pick from a wide range of people in order to come to some kind of a collective agreement. And picked one or two people with the same opinion on something doesn't give you the right to start dismissing people like me who will come and say, that doesn't really work for me either, right? So there's always going to be like that mix of people, and it's not black and white. It can't be. With humans, it just can't function that way. And the sooner we just fucking accept that, wow, what a world that will be. Like, I'm getting to be an expert in my own body, and I think that maybe even like patient education before, or human education before we are sick, is so important. About like, these are the chronic illnesses that affect women between your age, or you can at least know the signs and symptoms and the facts about it, instead of having to do this when you're laying in a hospital bed dying, or when you're dying, but you're sitting at home with a 2-week-old baby and shit is taking forever within the system. Like, I shouldn't be here right now. And that leads to the anxiety piece of it. And I've had people try to mask it and say like, oh, it's a you issue and it's something that you really need to deal with. And sure, absolutely, that is 100% part of it. But there's also a part where medical professionals need to take accountability and stop doing some of the shit that they do, or I wouldn't have half the issues that I do. And I don't need an Ativan. I don't need an antidepressant. I need somebody to actually give a shit and want to keep me alive, and not just say that they are and run to the pulmonary hypertension convention and say that they're an expert. Like, no, get over yourself for just where I'm at. I've been able to find advocates that say, no, it would be weird if you didn't have anxiety or you weren't depressed. And then I had like that added piece on top of it about anxiety surrounding infant loss. Like, that was a huge, and it still is. I'll wake my partner up in the middle of the night and be like, go check the baby and make sure she's still breathing. Because like, one, I have fears about not being able to wake up in order to help her, and two, that she's just not going to wake up. And like, bath, some days I'm not able to even do it because our bathtub is so deep and I can't pull myself. I usually just have to have a shower, like one of those old people chairs. That's how I bath. But I was sitting in the bath and I was going through YouTube videos just trying to get like some content video of this really beautiful woman talking about her infant loss experience. And like, in my head I'm like, Lana, like, don't do this. And I was like, well, she's just sharing her experience, and obviously like there's some therapeutic component, but there really should be like a huge trigger warning. And I think there should also be like, are you this age when those videos come up, because it was traumatizing. And I can't imagine what this woman's going through. Like, my heart breaks for her. And I hope that she's able to heal somewhat. Like, I don't know how anybody's able to really walk through that, but I guess you find your purpose and you're able to at some point, just like I lost it, because that is my worst fear. That is my number one fear, is that I'm going to lose baby Z, and that will be it. And then like, there'll be a level of blame between my partner and I, and that will destroy our relationship, and then everything will change. Like, my entire support system will go down the tubes, and that is my life. That is my lifeline. I wouldn't be here sitting the way that I am today and so well if it were not for my partner. He has kept me 100% alive. There's no way I would be here, and I know that. Or I get presented with that maybe going away and ending and not being able to do the things that I'm doing to help us survive, or our relationship just ending. Like, that's everything in my life just gone. I have anxiety, and yeah, it makes me a little sad. I try not to dwell on it now, and I really try to focus on the components that I can control. But that's taken time in therapy, and taken time for me to really work through what that's going to look like for myself, and how I can really contribute to more self-esteem, less anxiety, those kinds of things. And on the sleep component, I'm working on that anxiety component, but I need the medical system to change and to recognize that, you know, as much as you want to blame everything else and all the external factors, that maybe you should be looking internally and seeing what you're doing to contribute to the healthcare system. Because if you're just there to take from it, and you think that like it's everybody else, then we have a bigger problem. And I'm pretty sure that as the sooner professionals realize that, and get off Twitter and TikTok and stop making shirts that say, "But did you die?" Just fun light videos, but this is my heavy shit. I just dumped it all on you. So if you want a trauma bond later, hit me up. So I'm sure we'll have lots more conversations about this, and I hope that I'll have more resources for people that are suffering the same right now. Okay, so my camera died and I am back. It got too hot. My ring light was a little bit ridiculous. Anyway, we will have more conversations, and I will have more resources at that time, and hopefully I will be in a much better place. I'm getting to a pretty good place right now as we speak, but it could be better. So I'm continuously learning, growing, and educating myself, as well as others, to be the best that we can be in the situations that we find ourselves in throughout life, right? This isn't just for women that are postpartum. This could be anybody, and I know that the challenges are real when you are chronically or terminally ill and live anywhere in the world and need people to just fucking listen. So that is it. As always, much light, love, and good vibes. Peace.